The Rocky Mountains, early spring of 1834. Snow still clung to the tops of the pines, melting slowly into the cold earth below. In a small settlement tucked against the wild ridges, a seamstress named Emma Wade hurried across the muddy ground with a bundle of buckskins pressed against her chest. Her boots were worn thin, her fingers were still sore from days of stitching tough leather, and her heart carried a heaviness she did not dare show. Emma pushed open the door of the carpenter trading post, and a burst of noise struck her at once. Men argued over furs and whiskey. Women bartered for cloth and dried goods. The air smelled of wood smoke and wet hides. Emma stepped inside quietly, trying not to draw attention, though she already felt the familiar sting of eyes settling on her. Some women whispered the way they always did. Seamstress. Poor thing. No future. No prospects. Emma kept her head down. She was only there to deliver the buckskin coat she had sewn for Mrs. Carpenter, a woman known for her sharp tongue and sharper judgments. "About time," Mrs. Carpenter snapped when Emma approached the counter. She snatched the coat from Emma's hands and held it up toward the oil lamp. "Fringe is uneven, beadwork too tight, leather stiff. Do you call this sewing?" Emma's stomach twisted. She had worked on that coat late into the night for a full week. She had bled into the leather. She had done her best. "I can adjust it," she said softly. Mrs. Carpenter scoffed loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Adjust it? My dear, you can hardly sew a straight line. No wonder you are still unmarried." The room filled with laughter. Emma lowered her gaze, gripping her hands together so no one would see them shake. She had heard it before, but it burned just as bad each time. Before she could speak, another voice cut through the room. "That coat is fine work." The laughter quieted. Heads turned toward the far corner. A man stepped forward from the shadows. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in buckskin that had seen hard winters. His hair was dark. His jaw carried a rough beard, and his gray eyes held the steady calm of a man who lived more with mountains than people. Most folks in the settlement barely knew him. They just called him Eli Turner. Some said he was simple. Others said he was ruined. Others whispered he had lost everything years ago. Emma had never spoken to him before. Mrs. Carpenter stiffened. "Eli Turner, since when are you an expert on sewing?" Eli didn't react to her tone. He simply walked closer, picked up the coat, and inspected it with a slow, thoughtful gaze. "Leather's good," he said. "Hands that stitched this were careful. I can tell." Mrs. Carpenter's face tightened. "Are you calling me wrong?" "I'm calling the coat good," Eli said calmly, "and the girl honest." Emma had no idea what to say. No man had ever defended her work before. No one had defended her at all. Mrs. Carpenter shoved the coat back into Emma's arms. "You know what, girl? I don't want it. Take it and go. And don't bother stepping in here again unless you're looking for charity." Emma's throat tightened. She blinked fast, willing herself not to cry in front of all those watching eyes. She turned, clutching the coat, and hurried toward the door. But as she stepped into the cold air outside, a quiet voice followed. "Miss Wade." She froze. Eli Turner stood just a few steps behind her, snow melting on his shoulders, eyes softening in a way she hadn't expected from such a rugged man. "You didn't deserve that," he said. Emma swallowed hard. "It doesn't matter what I deserve. It matters to me." She looked up at him then, really looked. Eli Turner looked like a man carved from the mountains themselves. Strong, silent, bearing storms that others would never survive. And yet there was something gentle in his eyes, something almost careful. "You make good work," he said. "Better than half the leather goods in this place." "That doesn't change anything," Emma whispered. "I have no job now, no home of my own, no way to pay my board. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." Eli studied her quietly, the cold wind lifting the edges of his coat. "I might have an answer," he said slowly, "but you won't like it at first." Emma stepped back. "What do you mean?" He took a breath, steady and sure. "I need a wife." Emma's heart jumped so hard she felt dizzy. "What?" she whispered. "I need a wife," Eli repeated. Someone who can sew, keep a home. Help me through winter. I'm not offering love. I'm offering safety, shelter, food, and my name. Emma could barely breathe. Why me? She asked. Eli met her eyes without flinching. Because when they mocked you, you didn't break. You walked out with your pride. Folks think I'm simple, Miss Wade. Ruined. Not worth much, but I can spot strength when I see it. The wind swept around them, carrying the smell of pine and cold mountain stone. Emma clutched the coat to her chest. Eli, she whispered, I don't know you. You will, he said softly, and if you choose no, I won't ask again. But if you choose yes, everything changes from here. Emma's heart pounded. Her life was falling apart. She had nothing, no one, nowhere to go. And yet, the way he looked at her made her feel seen for the first time in years. She didn't answer right away, but something inside her had already shifted, something that felt dangerously close to destiny. Emma barely slept that night. She lay awake in the cold loft of the boarding cabin, staring at the low ceiling, while the other women around her snored softly. Her mind kept circling back to Eli Turner standing in the snow, offering her something she never imagined anyone would offer. A home, a name, safety, but also a life tied to a man she hardly knew. By dawn, her decision was still tangled in fear and hope. She packed her few belongings anyway, unsure whether she would walk toward him or away from him. Outside, the settlement was waking slowly. Smoke curled from chimneys. Dogs barked in the distance. Children carried buckets of water from the well. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone except her. Emma stood at the edge of the path that led toward the mountains, toward Eli Turner's isolated cabin. She hugged her clothes bundle close, her breath fogging in the cold air. You're going to freeze standing there. She spun around. Old Mrs. Duncan, who ran the boarding cabin, was watching her with tired eyes. You're out of coin, Mrs. Duncan said, not unkindly, and I can't keep you for free. But you're a hard worker, girl. Life hasn't been fair to you. Emma swallowed the ache in her throat. I know, she whispered. Mrs. Duncan studied her face. Where are you headed? Emma hesitated. Then she spoke the truth. I don't know. Mrs. Duncan nodded slowly. Well, sometimes the road you think you shouldn't take ends up being the one that saves you. I just don't want to make a mistake. Child, Mrs. Duncan said gently, you're already in a place where the wrong choice could break you. If a man like Eli Turner is offering you a home, you might want to consider that a blessing, not a trap. Emma looked down the snowy path again. Mrs. Duncan's voice softened. No woman survives out here alone. That was the truth. As sharp as cold air, as unforgiving as the mountains. Emma drew a slow, shaky breath and finally took her first step toward the wilderness. Toward Eli. Toward whatever future waited. She walked for nearly an hour, the forest rising around her, sunlight filtering through tall pines. Her heart pounded harder with every step. She didn't know what she feared more, arriving or turning back. When she reached the clearing, she saw it. A simple log cabin built strong against the wind. Smoke rose from the chimney. Stacked firewood lined the outer wall. A fence circled a tiny garden, still bare from winter. And Eli Turner stood outside, chopping wood. When he looked up and saw her, he didn't smile. He didn't rush toward her. He simply straightened, rested his hands on the axe handle, and waited. Emma walked closer, her heart thudding. I came, she said softly. I see that. She clutched her bundle as if it was her last shield. I need to make something clear before anything happens. I'm listening, Eli said. I won't be invisible in my own home, she said. I won't live as someone's burden. I work, I sew, I earn my place. If I say yes, it's because we agreed on respect. Eli nodded once. Fair, more than fair, quote. Emma studied his face, searching for any sign of cruelty, impatience, or deceit. She found none. He took a step toward her, slow and steady. I'm not a rich man, he said. People say I'm simple because I don't talk much. They say I'm ruined because I live alone out here. But I know how to treat a wife right. With honesty, with fairness, with care. If you come here, Emma Wade, you won't be a servant or a shadow." Her chest tightened. "And if I say yes?" she whispered. Eli looked directly into her eyes. "Then you're my wife," he said. "And I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe." The wind moved through the trees, brushing her hair across her cheek. Emma's voice trembled. "And what will you expect from me?" Eli's answer was simple. "Just to be who you are." Her throat tightened. This was not a romantic proposal. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't even pretty. But it was the first time in her life someone had looked at her and seen more than what she lacked. She took a breath, then nodded. "All right," she said. "Yes." Quote. Eli released a breath so quiet she almost missed it. "Then come inside," he said gently. "It's too cold for making big decisions out here." When Emma stepped into the cabin, a wave of warmth greeted her. Light from the fire danced on the walls. The space was simple. A single room, a loft above, shelves lined with tools and dried herbs, a sturdy table, a narrow cot. But it felt safe. It felt like a beginning. Eli set her bundle down and poured her a cup of warm broth. "We can marry at sunup tomorrow," he said. "Preacher Benton passes by on his round. It'll be quick." Emma nodded, though her chest fluttered with nerves. "And tonight?" she asked quietly. Eli shook his head. "You take the bed. I'll sleep by the fire. A deal's not a burden, and I don't take what isn't freely given." Her breath caught in her throat. This man, this simple mountain man everyone mocked, spoke with more respect than any man she'd ever known. That night, Emma lay awake, staring at the low ceiling, listening to the fire crackle softly, while Eli slept on the floor just a few feet away. She felt fear. She felt hope. She felt something she couldn't yet name. But she didn't feel alone, and that was enough. When dawn broke and Preacher Benton knocked on the door, Emma Wade stood beside Eli Turner with shaking hands and a heart full of uncertainty. In less than 3 minutes, with only the fire as witness, she became Emma Turner, a seamstress with nothing. Now the wife of a man who held more secrets than she yet understood, and one of those secrets was about to change her life forever. The morning after their wedding, Emma stepped outside the cabin and breathed in the cold mountain air. The sky stretched wide and open, painted in soft shades of blue and silver. She wrapped her shawl tight around her shoulders, trying to calm the strange mix of fear and comfort inside her chest. Inside the cabin, Eli was already up, packing tools into his saddlebag. He worked with steady, quiet movements, the kind that came from years of surviving alone. Emma watched him for a moment, unsure how to start a conversation with the man who was now her husband. "Do you always wake up before sunrise?" she asked softly. "Most days," Eli replied. "Work goes better when the world's still quiet." Emma nodded. She didn't know whether to offer help, stay out of the way, or simply wait. She wasn't used to being part of anyone's routine. "You can sit," Eli said. "No rush. I'll make breakfast." He cooked without fuss, just biscuits and dried meat warmed over the fire. But Emma noticed something surprising. Even in silence, he moved like a man who wanted her to feel at ease, not like someone who expected service. After they ate, Eli reached for his coat. "I need to check part of my trap line today," he said. "Won't be gone long. You'll be safe here." Emma nodded, but something inside her tightened. This cabin felt solid, but the world outside still frightened her. Not because of the wilderness, but because she didn't know her place in it yet. "Before I go," Eli added, "if you need anything, there's storage under the table and more blankets in the loft. I set aside some soft leather you can work with when you're ready. Figured you'd want to sew once you settle in." Emma blinked. "You made space for my work?" Eli nodded. "Your hands, no leather," seemed right. She didn't know what to say. No one had ever prepared anything for her, not her old employer. Not the women she'd lived with. Not anyone. After he left, Emma cleaned the cabin, mended her shawl, and walked around the garden fence outside. Little shoots of green pushed through the thawing earth. New life, stubborn and determined. She touched the small leaves gently, thinking, "If they can grow here, maybe I can too." Hours passed. Emma started a pot of stew and worked on the soft leather he'd set aside. She was stitching fringe into a small pouch when the door opened. Eli stepped inside, snow clinging to his boots and coat. But he wasn't alone. 2 men followed him, one leaning heavily on Eli's arm. The man's face was pale and tight with pain. His leg was twisted at an unnatural angle. "He fell near the ridge," Eli said. "Ice broke under him." Emma stood quickly. "Set him by the fire." Eli eased the injured man down while the other trapper hovered nearby in worry. Emma knelt beside the wounded leg. "It's broken," she said. "We need to set it before the swelling gets worse." The man gritted his teeth. "Do it." She grabbed strips of cloth, strong branches from near the hearth, and heated water. Her hands didn't shake. Her breath stayed steady. Years of helping sick boarders and injured workers had taught her more than sewing. Eli watched silently as she worked, his eyes filled with something she hadn't seen before: respect. When the bone was set and the man was resting, Eli stepped beside her at the table. "You did good," he said quietly. Emma looked down at her hands, still wrapped in strips of cloth from cleaning wounds. "It was nothing." "No," Eli said softly. "It was more than nothing." Their eyes met, and warmth spread through her chest like sunlight breaking through snow clouds. Over the next 2 days, the injured trapper rested in the loft while Emma cooked, changed bandages, and checked the fever. Eli chopped wood, hauled water, and helped however he could, without crowding her. They worked together like they had been doing it for years. When the injured men finally left, the cabin felt strangely empty. Emma stood at the window, watching them walk into the trees. "You saved his life," Eli said from behind her. "I did what anyone would," she replied. "No," Eli said quietly. "Most wouldn't know how. You did." Emma turned to him, uncertain what his expression meant. "Emma," he said, stepping closer, "you're not here because I needed a cook or someone to sew buckskins." He paused. "You're here because I needed someone strong." Emma felt her throat tighten. "Strong doesn't mean unafraid." "It means you stand anyway," Eli said. "And that's you." Silence settled between them, warm and gentle. Then Eli took a slow breath. "I have something to show you," he said. "Something I've never shown another soul." Emma followed him outside. He led her through the trees, down a hidden path she never noticed before, to a rocky outcrop overlooking a narrow gorge. "Here," Eli said. He stepped aside. Emma gasped. Below them, tucked behind boulders and brush, lay a large wooden chest half buried under stones. Eli crouched, cleared away debris, and pried the lid open. Inside were stacks of furs, perfect, glossy, valuable hides, and more than she had ever seen in her life. Among them were small leather pouches tied with cord. Eli handed one to her. Emma untied it with trembling hands. Silver coins spilled into her palm. Dozens. She stared, stunned. "Eli," she whispered. "What? What is this?" Quote, "My father's legacy," Eli said quietly, "and mine. Folks think I'm a simple trapper, a ruined man, someone who lost everything. Let them think it." Emma stared at him, her heart racing. "This isn't a simple life," he continued. "It's a hidden one, and now it's yours too." She swallowed hard. "Why trust me with this?" Quote, Eli stepped closer. "Because you came here with nothing," he said, "and you never once asked for more. Because when people mocked you, you kept your pride. Because you're stronger than you know. And because," he hesitated, "because I care what you think of me." Her breath caught. No man had ever spoken to her that way. No one had ever trusted her with anything valuable. And now she stood beside a fortune hidden in the mountains. A fortune tied to a man growing toward her in ways she didn't fully understand yet. Slowly, almost without thinking, Emma placed her hand on Eli's chest. "I care what you think of me too," she said softly. Eli's breath hitched. the first real crack in his steady calm. The mountains around them stood tall and quiet, holding their shared secret like a sacred promise. When they walked back to the cabin, they walked side by side. Not as a seamstress and a mountain man, not as a burden and a shelter, but as two people who had begun to understand each other. Two people who had survived loneliness long enough to find something worth holding on to. At the cabin door, Emma paused. "Eli," she whispered, "what happens now?" Eli looked at her with steady eyes. "Now," he said, "we build a life, not because of need, but because we choose to." For the first time, Emma believed it. She wasn't just his wife by circumstance, she was his partner. And together they would face whatever the mountains brought.